Right. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. We will be continuing with the 21st word today. And we've been discussing why the idea of offering namaz 5 times every single day feels burdensome to us. And Nursi basically explores that and says that there are some underlying assumptions or some ideas that go into us feeling burdened by those prayers. And he summarized them in 5 warnings. The first one was that you think life is temporary, you think you will live forever, and hence you find salat every day burdensome. The second is you don't feel the need to pray. Your soul is stomach worshipping. You feel the need to eat and drink, but you don't feel the need to pray, which is why you find it burdensome. The third is you are impatient and you think about future prayers and future worship when you should focus on what you're supposed to do, which is why you find it burdensome. And the fourth warning is that perhaps you don't really believe Allah's promise of what He wishes to grant you with Salah, like all the rewards, your grave becoming lit up, the judgment day being easier for you, perhaps. And then the fifth warning was that your soul is world worshipping, and you are distracted by the things that you have to do in this world, and you are not setting your priorities right, which is why you are burdened by prayer. The last warning that we discussed was the fifth one, so we're going to delve a little more into it. Is there anybody who remembers what we discussed last time and would wish to summarize for us or just tell us what they remember? Right, Abdurrahman.
Since Brother Bikan is in here, I do remember this. He was saying some stuff that sounded almost repulsive, I guess. But even from what he said last week, what really stayed with me, I think Brother Bikan was mentioning this, like kind of just being honest with yourself and all the activities that we do. Like there's so many activities that I do every day, consistently, maybe every day. And if I'm honest with myself, I know there's like no benefit or value or long-term value in these things. It's just like a very temporary, even if it's like for my career, let's say, if it's like my work or getting more money or something that you might call very productive in society's understanding, it's still like, I understand if I'm honest with myself, the value here is so low. Like, if I work extra for my boss or something, the value here is actually so low that it actually benefits me. And then when it comes to prayer, there's something I acknowledge there is some value there, like the previous 4 warnings we did, or 5 warnings. So what I understood from that was like, if I was honest with myself, I'd say, okay, there's so much I spend my time on that's not valuable. And prayer is just asking for like an hour of my time at most every day. So might as well just give it to it. Like, don't think that prayer is such a huge obstacle. Don't think that it's stopping me from hitting my goals. No, that's actually the thing that I know is valuable. The rest of it is kind of lies, if I'm honest to myself. So might as well just give it an hour. Like, you don't need to even like negotiate, like get rid of all the other useless stuff you're doing. Just at least give prayer that 1 hour. Like, it was kind of a good reasoning for me.
Jazakallah. And Atiq, because the fifth warning was about worldly affairs and the work you're doing in your life, Atiq asked this question, and I guess a lot of us also had that. How much should you pray, and how much should you, quote unquote, sacrifice your, work for prayer? Like, what's a moderate amount? What's a good amount? And I guess in answer to this, Birkan said that we should actually be asking ourselves that. Because we've normalized certain things as a society. We've normalized working 40 hours a week, and we should ask ourselves, is this really what is required? And in the text, Nursi was trying to bring our attention to the fact that, like we are looking at, like, I don't know what it was, like how many chickens there are in America. And it's like, and I guess people were also like, oh, well, but I'm interested in physics, for example, and there is this curiosity in me. So should I not explore that? And I guess what you have to ask yourself is this what I would do if I knew I had cancer and I knew I didn't have that much time to live? Is this what I would be spending my time on? So I guess this passage was just like encouraging us to set our priorities right and to think about them. And then I guess there was a bit of a debate about um there was a bit of a debate regarding how we are different from animals and how we are superior to animals in a way. And I guess the question was like, how are we superior to animals? And Berkan's not here today, but he was talking about how like we have a potential that is different from animals. And the passage was talking about how like even though like we are better than animals and we have all these things that animals don't, like we are really bad compared to them at figuring out what our needs are. And I thought maybe we'd, I don't know, talk more about this today, but I don't know. Because, and I guess like the debate was this, that Berkan was like, our need is not really to build a plane or to, I guess, do all those things that traditionally are known to progress mankind. But then it's like, okay, but then, you also have all these needs as a human and this curiosity and these capabilities and these desires. So how do you reconcile the two? So if more people want to talk about this is something we can discuss today. And then I guess the last thing that I want to talk about from last time is the two minds. And we can also explore them more today because we talked about them at the end. And the fifth warning basically talked about how Salah is going to beautify your life or beautify the things that you have to do anyway. And it's like you're going to be working in an orchard anyway, but when you're praying the 5 prayers, you are conscious of God, and the first mind was about how you share part in the glorification that those trees and the fruits and the plants are carrying out in the orchard. And the second was that you will basically see people taking things from the orchard as almsgiving. So, for example, it's like Miriam has to take care of her children, regardless of whether or not she prays. But when she does pray, she will be conscious of God, and she will be conscious that her children are glorifying God in the many ways in which they do that. And she will become, she will have a part in that glorification, and she will get blessings or reward when she's thinking of her children in that conscious manner. And the second is if she, for example, buys Zainab some stationery and Zainab goes to school and somebody takes one of her pencils, she don't think, oh, I worked so hard to get Zainab this and some other kid took it from Zainab. She'll think, no, Allah gave it to me. Allah gave this to my daughter. Somebody took it from my daughter, and that was also Allah's will. So I will think of it as giving in the way of Allah. I will think of it as alms giving. So you won't think of it like somebody's trying to steal something from you or it's yours, and you won't guard it as heavily as you would guard it if you thought it was yours and it didn't have a protector. So those were the 2 minds, and we can explore them more today. Anything anybody else would like to add from last time, or any questions or comments? Do you have a? Yep.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you, Dua, for that really beautiful and very helpful summary and kind of jogging our memories of our discussion last week. I guess I just wanted to make a comment on animals and us, right? And how, from what I remember from what Brother Birkan discussed as well, he gave the example of, here Imam Nursi gives the example of, like, I can't even compete with a sparrow, right? And that if I try to be better than it in terms of what it achieves, I definitely cannot be better. Like, it will make a home that is exactly fulfilling its exact needs, in terms of function, in terms of aesthetic, in terms of efficiency. Whereas I can labor here for 30 years and not have a home myself. So in terms of how they meet their own physical needs, they do so in a perfect manner, and I can't even do that. And so Imam Nursi, in the 5th warning, when he began, he said, my basic duty is not to labor like an animal, right? First, I mean, when I look at myself, much more than any other need that I have these needs of like, what am I going to do about my death? What am I going to do about this life that I find myself in? You know, I do my 9 to 5, I do my studies, but I want to live meaningfully, and I want the sort of effort that I put in to have fruit. I want the people that I engage with to be meaningful exchanges. And so there are these sort of essential needs that I have. How do I go about in fulfilling my duty to pursue that meaning in my life? And then that's where I suppose prayer comes into the picture of making me, as you said, cognizant of the ways in which everything around me is glorifying God, and how I can join that glorification or that acknowledgement through my own prayers. But just, I guess that, again, like everything around us, including animals, but not limited to animals, illustrates their sort of perfect fulfillment of their own various duties, right? Like the sun operates exactly as the sun should operate. And the order of the world operates exactly as it should operate. And the bird flies and builds its nest exactly as it should. So as a human being, I guess when it comes to prayer as well, I have to ask these basic questions of, what am I most in need of, right? Because first I need to become conscious of, what do I need, such that I can try to go about in fulfilling it. And then if I can see and witness prayer as a means of fulfilling this essential need, right? To live meaningfully, to derive joy from the sort of mundaneness of my life sometimes, then I can appropriate or utilize my energy and my focus and attention accordingly.
Jazakallah. Kadir.
I just want to like go further on what you were saying in terms of like what a human is supposed to do. Like, as Dr. Yusuf also describes it, as like it's an opportunity to learn about the creator. So today we were discussing about in like Texas Quran class, like what are your goals? And a thing that I thought of was like any goal that you have in life, if it's not getting you closer to your creator, then you might need to rethink about it. And the way Birkan was also talking about it, like you really need to think about like, if what you're doing is it taking you closer to the creator, or is it not taking you closer to the creator? Because that's what we're really about. And if it is taking you closer to the creator, then you have peace at mind, peace at heart. But if it's not, like, then a human being would like live in depression, and that is what separates us from animals and humans. Like, an animal has a job to do, they do it every day, they're not depressed, and they go about their day. But as a human, if you're not getting to know about your creator, you do not have that peace of mind at heart, then you're depressed. So maybe you're, as Dr. Yusuf says, you're worse than the animal. Like, they don't have that kind of a problem in their life. But if you're not getting to know your creator, you're living in like a depressed life. So yeah, yes, I want to.
I actually don't know if this is relevant, but I was reading that pigeons, like, because we domesticated them, they are unable to build nests of their own, and they are highly dependent on human beings now for their food. Like, they can't get their own food, they can't make their own nests. They're really like, I guess they really just like lost their way as pigeons, you know? And it's like, it sort of reminds me of humans. Like, if we get distracted from our purpose, and if we get distracted by other things, and we don't focus on what we're supposed to do and what our needs are and what we've been sent here to do, then I guess we'll just become like dysfunctional as humans. We will have other things in life. We will have, you know, like these really like high-rise buildings and all these things, but we won't really be fulfilled. And I guess that's something that, you know, I'm at least seeing a lot of these days, when it's like, you know, you've got all these material things, you've got a lot of money, but deep down, like, you're hollow and you feel, you know, like disturbed. So yeah, but I wanted to say that fact about pigeons anyway. So yeah. Any other comments, Yusuf?
I just want to now combine the point about the initial arguments and where we are. because I think we need to see the picture from both sides. Abdurrahman, it was you, I guess, last week talking about my curiosity about things. So yeah, we have this curiosity. The way now I'm trying to see how the author argued, he was saying that you have a lot of things that you're wasting your time to, which has no benefit to you. This was one end of the spectrum. So if my concern is that, oh, prayer is taking too much time, so the author in there was arguing that you're already spending your time for so many unnecessary things, which could easily be fitting the time of the prayer. So this is granted. But now in there was a second question. The person was saying that, no, I'm not wasting my time with the chickens of America and whatever, but it is my livelihood. And this is the case, right? I mean, you might be a person who is driving the, if you like, a truck, who collects the trash. I mean, it doesn't necessarily need to be something like, oh, I'm going to be a professor and then investigate the creation of the creator, and I'm going to get to know the creator. How dare you say don't do this? I'm a truck driver, right? And I have to do this because of earning my livelihood. Is that right? Okay. So now the author in there was saying that among the hours that you work, just sparing 1 hour of your time for the prayer. We are not asking for 24 hours or your entire life or anything. Just 1 hour, which is going to make your life meaningful, which is going to make your truck driving meaningful, or having your time with your children meaningful. If you're not a truck driver, if you're a scientist, which is going to make your science meaningful or more meaningful. So just take it as such, is the approach. I mean, the debate last week, which is this, is necessary, but even secondary to that. I mean, we do science for what reasons? What is our honesty and whatnot? It's a separate discussion. It's a discussion to be had. But the point in here is, like, you are sometimes replacing prayer with this one. Look what you are changing with what. This is the author's perspective. And just, I would like to add one thing on top of that. Because of our probably cultural background of hundreds of years, there's this real or unreal fight between religion versus science sort of a thing. And science is not necessarily science in the vacuum, but it's more like industrial progress, really. And because of staying behind in that race for so many years, and it sounds so exciting, and we would like to beat them with our power. I mean, not necessarily that I am going to learn and get to know my creator more. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. Why is it truly? I mean, if you're truly doing any of these for getting to know your creator, good for you. I'm talking about our reflexes as, I would say, Muslim, culturally Muslim background people. Most of the time we do this, and we have this internal conflict, unjustified internal conflict, whether we should do this, we should do that. And then especially if you are a little bit of a learned Muslim, educated Muslim, no, I'm going to do both sort of a thing. These are some, I would say, unquestioned attitudes within ourselves, within myself. So I have to question myself deep inside. What do I do? Why do I do? I would be perfectly fine, and this is how I'm trying to tell to me. Yusuf, what is the best thing you can do? I'm pretty sure I will run out of money or just get bankrupt if I get into business. It's not my thing. If I don't know, get into anything else, at best I can be a teacher. This is why I'm a teacher, and I need to earn some livelihood. And that's what I do. That's the bigger part of it. Do I enjoy doing computer science? Yes, I also do enjoy it. That's also part of the story. But if I try to sell it to you by saying that, oh, no, we have to do sciences so that we are going to get to know our creator better, well, let's be honest. I mean, this can be a fraction of what's going on. Agreed. And it's possible to get to know your creator. And it would be awesome and beautiful if you can see your creator with whatever you are doing. Let it be truck driving, let it be doing science. That's perfect. But replacing it as if I do it for the sake of religion, I do it for the sake of getting to know my creator, I would say slow down, be honest with yourself, try to make your studies for that too, but we are far away from that. Put it as a goal, but do not use it as an excuse for yourself to legitimize working, let's say overly working or super ambitiously working for that endeavor. So just say that, yes, I spend 1 hour of prayer and I am hoping and praying that this 1 hour is going to make my 8 or 10 hours per day of working to the world, let it be truck driving, let it be doing science in a meaningful way. This is a very realistic, or at least for me, this is a very realistic attitude. But to say that, no, of course, Muslims have to do sciences because we get no, this is our goal. It's a good intentional goal, but it's not where we are. And it's not our real justification. Our justification most of the time, just so that I am singling out some people out there who are honestly asking for that, our purpose is to become the superpower and outpower somebody and whatnot, which has very little to do with our connection with the creator and whatnot. So as long as we are honest with that, honest with our reality, yes, I think in here the author is taking a very practical attitude, saying that only give 1 hour of your day to this prayer, which would be more than enough, 1 hour with taking ablution and everything. And it's going to instill this mature mindset to you, which will make the rest of your life more meaningful. And I think this is perfectly convincing. And it is not, he is not saying that, no, you should pray 3 hours, 4 hours, 20 hours, even do the tahajjud. He's not getting any of these here, really. I think just to, because sometimes as we get into debates, we start being too ambitious and then get polarized. And then what do you mean you do the plane because you want to have war planes and whatnot? I mean, true, but we are not there. It's not the context.
Jazakallah. Thank you for your direction. Any comments on this? Any questions? Does anybody have any questions on the 2 minds that we talked about? And if anybody would like to share their experience with praying 5 times a day, and if you think those minds are a part of your life. Do you feel like your work is better when you pray 5 times? Do you think you're more conscious? Do you feel like it's almsgiving? Any examples, any questions, concerns?
I guess it doesn't need to be happening every day or whatever, but at least once in a lifetime. Did the perspective that you acquired from your prayer, did you see, or did it make you see any of your quote unquote mundane things to be more meaningful?
And if not, why do you think that is? Abdurrahman.
I don't know about this once in a lifetime event kind of thing, but I think if you, let's say you went through a period where you were further from prayer or a lot less attentive during prayer, or just a lot, I don't know, you just more separated from that part of your life. It would be a slow progression, but then slowly you'd start seeing, or you start feeling this emptiness, as Kadir was kind of saying. You start feeling, why am I doing this, going to this 9-to-5 job, or why am I studying so hard for this test, or going through this whole system that I'm in, or these things are happening all around the world. Like, you start losing answers for those, or you start not having any way to like understand those, and you start diving into different things. Like, I think if you start moving away from prayer, you very quickly, or it happens gradually, but you end up in a place where then you're like, why am I alive? Like, what's the purpose of this then?
Mhm.
And then because the only answer that society gives you is more entertainment, go watch more movies or do stuff, maybe hobbies, get as many hobbies as you can, or work, get more money so you can have bigger houses. Like you fall into that mentality where then, I mean, I don't need to tell you, everyone knows it's just like this endless rat race that you fall into and no one likes it. But then if you come to prayer, you start seeing a small light there that, okay, yes, I'm still in the rat race maybe, or I am still working for money for this house and car. But at the end of the day, there is a part of me that realizes, there's more to it than just this. Like I acknowledge it. Me standing in prayer is an acknowledgement, there's more to it than just this. Like, okay, I do spend a lot of my time in this wasteful stuff, but because I pray, I have something to hold on to. And it gives meaning. It adds a shade of meaning to the rest of my life.
Jazakallah. Zareen.
Assalamu alaikum. So I guess kind of echoing sort of what Abdurrahman just said right now. I think one way in which I guess prayer has like sort of provided that light for me, especially in like scientific research in the field of academia, the thought process is that you have to keep like producing, developing new experiments, publishing more and more papers, trying to get ahead in your field and trying to produce the most results so you can be the most prestigious professor, researcher, win the Nobel Prize or something. And that tends to be sort of the mindset that gets kind of put on you, and it forces you to have to like work harder so you can like get out faster, gain all this prestige and reputation. But I guess once you kind of, at least for me, once I started like thinking about my prayers more, it felt like, I don't have to prove anything to other people, because that turns out to be like pointless. I can't satisfy everyone. I can't satisfy all of these expectations because they end up being like endless. So again, it's like this rat race. So I guess like, I guess Nursi kind of says that here too, how he describes the prayers as rest periods, allowing your spirit to relax and your heart to take a breather. That's where you kind of discover these two minds of what really what your prayers are doing for you, is like being able to escape this mentality of, oh, I have to prove my worth to the world instead of to my creator, type of a mindset.
Yeah, I guess to continue off what Zareen said, we do, so oftentimes we'll talk about prayer as prayer is where I acknowledge my reality to my creator, right? And that sounds like a nice fancy sentence, but what does that mean? Came to my mind, like the question of what does that mean, like acknowledging my reality to my creator. And I guess like in all sort of phases of our day, we're constantly presenting ourselves to different environments, right? And oftentimes we're trying to present ourselves in a competent manner. Like I have to show myself to be competent to my coworkers, to my boss, to my school as a student, to my professor, right? Or even to my family members. I have to kind of show that I have this degree of maturity, or I'm an adult, or etc., right? Like depending on what stage of life we're in. And it can be this constant sense of trying to or striving to demonstrate expertise, independence, again, competency. And yet prayer becomes like the parts of the days where you go to your creator you make sujood, right? And you're like, I'm utterly incompetent. Not in a sort of derogatory sense, right? But that I'm existentially, in terms of the needs that I have, completely needy. And that can be a very sort of different flip from how we're told to strive to show ourselves or present ourselves in the world, right? As likable, as successful, as earning this much amount of money or having this kind of prestige. So I guess prayer, or the times of prayer, become times in which like a mirror is held up, where we can look at ourselves with an honest reflection and say, yeah, this is who I am. And seek refuge in that from the one who created us in that manner. So it's not a sort of source of shame, right? But it becomes a source of peace, coming to peace with the conditions, the sort of neediness that I have towards my creator. So that was just one aspect that Zirine's beautiful comments made me think of. Another thing that I was just thinking about is that, when I guess we try to pray the 5 daily prayers, right? It becomes a conscious choice in which I am choosing to structure my day through these 5 daily prayers. And that structure is not determined by me. Like, I can't pray Fajr at 10 a.m. and I can't say, oh, let me just pray Dhuhr, Asr, and Maghrib all at 5. As long as I get the 5 in, it'll be all set. No, like, I have to pray them within certain designated periods. And that sort of structure in which that I have to abide by, I think also becomes a means for me to recognize constantly that I am not in this world to do as I like, or without a sense of duty, without a sense of purpose, right? That just as my day is being structured for me, my life is being structured for me. So there's a sense of how would you put it? There's a sense of, I guess, whoever is structuring my day in this manner and I am abiding by it, the things that I encounter are then also structured by that same creator, by that same sustainer. Like, I'm not, just as my day is not left to me, all the responsibilities, burdens that I have to carry in a day are also not left to me as well. So in that sense, prayer becomes a sort of a bounty, or again, a source of peace.
Jazakallah, that was very beautiful. Anybody else? I guess the question that I was asking was, so the first mind specifically talks about how prayer helps you to be more conscious, right? It helps you be more conscious when you're working, when you're carrying out your daily chores. You're going to remember Allah more. You're going to see Allah in them more. And I guess there is this relationship between salah and consciousness. And I think it's cyclical, where if you're conscious of God, your salah is beautified by that consciousness. And by praying, in your life, you become more conscious of God. And even in the Quran, like at a lot of instances, there are ayahs that are like, like pray salah and then remember your God, or be conscious of your God when you're not praying salah. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, do you feel when you pray the 5 daily prayers that you are more conscious of God in your everyday life? Or do you feel that you pray those 5 prayers and then you go back to your life and it's like nothing changed? It was just a duty that you had to do, and now everything's just back to the way it was. Are we feeling a change there? And if we're not, because I know a lot of us, like for me at least, like I will pray and sometimes my prayers are really good. And I will go back and I will think, wow, like I really had a connection with Allah, and I will think of Allah, or if I'm conscious about Allah, my prayer will become really good. But then I have those days where I'm just praying and I can, barely focus on the words that I'm saying. I'm trying to, focus on the meaning, but it's difficult and I'm distracted. So I'm sort of trying to explore the reasons why we might not feel like these minds are a part of our daily life, because we are, most of us, I think, are praying the 5 daily prayers. So are we seeing those minds? And if we're not, why do we think that is?
Since I have the mic, I'll continue. I think what Brother Yusuf said on this is really important, which is that, like oftentimes, yes, I will pray. I'll have the sense of relief of having fulfilled the duty, right? But I might just continue about my day as usual. Like I might not see anything remarkably different. Maybe I might be more conscious. Maybe I might not be. That sort of consciousness is not always determined by me either, right? But prayer becomes a sort of one, I guess, two things. One, it becomes a sort of investment. I keep investing into it, and it may, the fruits of it may come in ways that I don't expect, or I am not I don't have knowledge of. And two, like prayer is worship, right? But it's also a form of dua of God, I'm trying to structure my day as you ask me to, and remember you 5 times a day through these physical actions, through these words that I'm saying. Even if immediately after I don't become super God conscious, it becomes a form of dua. It becomes a form of supplication in which I'm saying, because I am doing this, make the fruits of it apparent to my life. Otherwise, if I think it can go down a very slippery slope of like me scolding myself and not feeling that my prayers are enough, and then that becoming a burden, and then me being like, well, I can't even pray properly, or I can't even experience the fruits of it. Why do it, right? So following just even purely the command of it becomes a fruit in and of itself, I think. And inshallah, the consistency of it, the dua of it, can turn into a way in which it does, change the way in which I interact with a friend, or the way I interact with Ali, or the way I interact with my food. Like it makes me think of, this is kind of not fully related, but when we follow like the sunnah, right, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like for example, I have this water, I have to sit down and drink it, right? That's the sunnah. I don't have to, right? But I might think of the sunnah. I take out water. Now, even if I don't sit down, immediately in my mind, I'm like, oh, the Prophet sat down when he drank water, so I should sit down. Now, if I do that, I'm remembering the Prophet, and therefore remembering the prophetic message, right? Remembering my Creator. Even if I take the water and I don't sit down, but I know that it's sunnah, I've still then, in one sense, remembered. The guilt of it can sometimes be like, oh, I am still remembering my Creator. But the thing is, even if I immediately just sit down because that's how I'm accustomed to do it, because I follow the sunnah every single time, maybe 5 times of it, I won't think of God, I won't think of the Prophet in a very deep manner when I drink that water. But maybe the 6th time, that action, the physical action attached to it, will bring about that meaning. Again, that's never really fully up to us. It's created for us, I think. Like being conscious of God, even though it's something we can strive for, that also is given. It's not constructed by me. So all of the actions that we do, all the steps that we do to live life in a more cognizant manner of our Creator, can only be forms of dua for it, not like, oh, I did this, and so now I can live consciously of my Creator. No, it's always a sort of gift from Him as well. That's my take.
That's very beautiful. Jazakallah. And Nursi he will also touch upon this a little bit, where he's like, there are different degrees that your prayers have. And just because your degree is lesser than that of a saint, for example, that doesn't necessarily mean that, you don't share in the light of the prayer. So even if you're not conscious all the time, that even the action of praying 5 times a day, you're making Allah part of your life, and you're at least remembering that you have a duty to someone 5 times a day. And that is better than nothing. Does anybody have any other comments? Is there someone online who has a comment? All right.
Yes.
Go off mute now.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you. So I think exam time for me, like to specific answer for your question, whether I can find it helps consciousness or not. I think it's definitely yes. And it has always been for me, like exam times were times where prayers were more focused, And I think many of us might experience that when you pray and then you study differently. And the study time itself, like right after Fajr, is the best time also to study. Where and the ayah in Surah Taha saying إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. So I always feel like this time of the day is the best time. And when I started working also as a critical care physician, many procedures of the procedures we do are sort of critical, and no matter how skilled you are, what is written in text, that mistakes happen in the best hands with the best doctors. So you need to keep like super focused. So I always feel like whenever I'm doing a procedure like this, right before, I should be like, if it is after Dhuhr prayer, for example, I should have been prayed first, because otherwise I would not feel calm and focused as much while I'm doing it. So I think for our souls and minds, the way we are created, we have a tendency to forget, and we have a tendency to be bored. So prayer sort of helps you to renew your soul, like to keep your mind focused. When Allah said to Prophet Muhammad, لقد أتيناك سبعا من المثاني والقرآن العظيم, we gave you 7 verses that you should repeat a lot. And he, in terms of Surah Al-Hajr, when he was telling him like, don't لا تمدين عينيك إلى ما متعنا به أزواجا منهم ولا تحزن, in terms of telling him in order not to feel sad and to be focused on what you are doing, you should repeat those 7 verses. And it's definitely a type of, like, I agree with the sister who said it's a supplication. It is a supplication. You are reading Quran and feeling that Allah is telling you that, and then you make sujood and you talk to Him. It's like that.
Jazakallah. That was very beautiful. Thank you. Anybody else online who would like to say something? All right. If there are no more comments on the minds, we can move on to the next passage. Would anybody like to read? Yusuf, are you okay with us moving on? Okay. Would anybody like to read? Anybody who has not read for us before? Sial, would you like to read? Okay. Start from in short and up till beware, do not say. Do not read the beware, do not say passage.
Quite simply, as though the prayers are an electric lamp, and your intention to perform them touches the switch, they disperse the world's darkness and show the changes and movements within the confused wretchedness of worldly chaos to be a wise and purposeful order and a meaningful writing of the divine power. They scatter one light of the light-filled verse. God is the light of the heavens and the earth. Over your heart, and your world on that day is illuminated through the light's reflection. It will cause it to testify in your favor through its luminosity.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? Okay. If not, I guess I have a prompt for us. I have a few, but I'll go with the interesting one. If you do not perform the prayers, your world that day will depart dark and wretched. So I have certainly had days where I have not performed the prayers and my world did not depart dark and wretched. So, and of course, it's not literal. So what does that mean exactly? What kind of darkness are we talking about here? What kind of wretchedness is going to descend on me if I don't perform my prayers? All right, guys, I'm going to need more participation.
Okay,
So,
I'll try to say something. It's sort of reminding me of. It's reminding me of the verses in the Quran that speak of a darkness, layers upon layers of darkness, and I'm thinking like of this state in which you miss your prayers and you don't think twice about it, of being like this sort of darkness in which you're so distant from it, you're so drowned in the world, caught up in the current of the world, that you just continue to flow with it, and you can't see, you can't make out what's in front of you, you can't make out the light. And I think, going back to what we were just talking about before, I think the prayer also, it sort of is like a speed bump in your day. It like forces you to go against that current. And it's like, I mean, like practically speaking, it's such a strange thing that you're standing there facing a corner and doing these, like, on the surface, like mechanical actions, repeating them in order. I thought about it before when like there was a time where I was at work and somebody, like, I was in a room praying and somebody walked in and they said my name. I didn't respond. I thought to myself afterwards, like, what did they think I was doing? So like, and then I explained to them what it was, but thinking about it, it's such a strange thing for this world, like that current, for you to step out of whatever you're doing in that moment and to face a direction and to like find this. I should have kept the page open, but he said like this world of your own. So you're stepping outside of that current. You're pulling yourself out. You're like saving yourself from that darkness. And you're sort of like putting your head above water for a moment, and seeing like the light that is beyond the darkness of the things of this world.
that was a perfect comment. Thank you. So you're saying the darkness is not praying in and of itself because you're not seeing the purpose in life. You're not seeing the need to pray. So that in and of itself is the darkness that you're dealing with.
Yeah, that's like a depth to that darkness that it doesn't even come to you as being something necessary.
Jazakallah. Aisha Noor.
Assalamu alaikum. So I thought of, what kind of example would make this easy for me to understand? And it's an example, so it's just that. But looking at everyone in this room, with the exception of Ali, everyone has been a student at some point in their life. Zainab's a student right now, mashallah. So we all know what being a student is like and the responsibilities that come with being a student, right? Studentship, let's say. And one part of that responsibility is attending classes, right? You sign up for classes. That's what being a student is, going to class. Now, this second part might not be as, let's say, as relevant because I know we have some very studious students, especially on this side, perhaps. But, like some of us, including myself, might have skipped class one day, right? Played hooky. Now, when you skip class, which might be, again, an unknown experience, I skipped class. Maybe I skipped all my classes for that day. My day didn't end up in this horrendous pitchness of darkness, right? Like, oh, I just skipped classes that day. Nothing happened. No professor ran after me with a hammer or anything. But what happens when I skip that day, right? Skip that class is not only does it affect my perhaps eventual success and eventual graduation from that class, but even in that moment, I am committing a contradiction. Like I contradict my position as a student. I deny the duty, the very basic duty that I have as a student. If I don't attend class, then I'm ignoring, I guess, this basic studentship that I have over me.
Wasting your dad's money.
I'm wasting my dad's money. I'm wasting scholarship state money, right? I'm also wasting myself. Like I'm wasting all the potential that I find within me. I'm wasting all the capacity that's within me. I'm wasting my professor's time perhaps too, right? But there's a sense of irrespective of the eventual result, which is also important, right? And I will face that. In my immediate moment, I am committing a waste of my own human qualities through not fulfilling this duty I have as a student. So in that moment, that act of contradicting who I am can bring with it emotions of like guilt or discomfort or, I'm not doing something right. Now, if I keep doing it, if I keep contradicting myself, I can eventually try to like silence those emotions as well, right? Normalize it for myself, but that will catch up to me as well.
That was a very good example. Don't feel peer pressure to skip classes. It's okay. Any questions, comments, any agreements, Abdurrahman?
I guess like a question. I know we're like in a religious gathering, but like
Speak for yourself.
yeah, speaking for myself, I guess. You said it's a contradiction basically of like the student to not go to classes, and then the analogy is like you're a human, you're a created human being. It's a contradiction for you to not, let's say, pray or to supplicate or show your neediness. And I'm thinking, okay, I think they're okay. I'm thinking like, what if, can I like change the goal of who I am? Because like, I guess not speaking for myself, but looking around me, what I see is I see a lot of people that seem to be happy or seem to be living decent lives or as good as they are. Like some are more happy or some are less happy, but they seem to be peaceful enough. They've accepted it and they don't pray. They don't do all these things, but it doesn't seem to be a contradiction to them almost. So I'm wondering, is this really contradicting myself? For myself, I could speak for sure. For me, it does feel like a contradiction, but then when I look out, I don't see it. So I'm wondering, should this affect my beliefs at all, or should this affect my convictions at all when other people are seemingly not in this same like you go and tell the person I was praying to God and he's like, why? Like, why would you ever do such a thing? It's like, oh, I'm needy, I need to ask for help. He's like, you're crazy. Like, this was, for me, it's like, you're crazy because how can you not supplicate your needs? But it seems like they don't feel it. So maybe this is, it does raise some questions. So I'm just wondering if what would be like the answer to this, or should it affect me at all, or should I just completely ignore it? It's not relevant to me. Just speak from my own perspective. Don't care about it.
Yeah, see, I'll go for it. Also, I just want to point out that was very in line with the peer pressure comment, because now you're feeling the peer pressure from other people. So
I don't know. I kind of disagree. At least the way I'm reading what Imam Nursi is saying is that it's not a contradiction at all. It's showing the true state. It's reflecting the current state that you're in. If you don't feel anything, then that just reflects that you don't even have the consciousness. They have no sensitivity to it. Like, you've allowed yourself to fall to such a degree that it doesn't have any bearing on your life to even be that that far away from your spiritual religious obligations.
I think there are a number of things I want to say. I think first, you're right to emphasize that, I should start with myself, because it's very difficult to try to think of, oh, this seems to make sense for someone else. But, I can only start with my own human emotions, my own human thoughts, my own state of being. But also that, now this person who says, oh, why are you crazy for supplicating to God? Like, that's also my neph sometimes. Like, are you crazy? So it doesn't always have to be an external other, right? But it can also, that question can come from within myself. And I guess what the craziness there is not about the supplicating itself, but is about who you're directing it to. Because whether someone supplicates to God or not, they are supplicating to something. That supplication exists, right? If I'm not asking or presenting my neediness before God, I'm presenting it before my professor. I'm presenting it before my boss. I'm presenting it before, my paycheck, thinking that this will be what fulfills the needs that I have in my life. So I always seek for a source of fulfillment from something in my life. The question is, can any of those sources that I think can fulfill me, can they actually fulfill it? Can they actually give meaning to my life in the way that I need them to? Now, someone can try it. I mean, personally, in my life, as I've seen it, whenever I saw or I shut that door of seeing fulfillment from my creator, I felt darkness and despair and eventual questions of why it's not worth it. Like, why should I even exist? I think so that's kind of one aspect of, we're always supplicating and we're always worshiping, right? It's a matter of who is worthy of that supplication, who is worthy of me asking, can you help me in this? Who is capable of actually helping me or meeting the needs that I have? And to me, I can reason and I can witness as well in my life that, oh, whoever has given me the need must be the one to provide for it as well, right? Whoever has written this math question must also have the answer for it. I don't need to ask this person next to me or go to another source for it. So that's one aspect of it. Secondly, I guess, going back to the student example, like, let's say I'm trying to go to class and I'm trying to fulfill my basic duty. Like, I can see a bunch of people now. It's going to be a very sort of like typical early 2000s example, but like, I can see some delinquents skateboarding, let's say, right? And like, let's say they skip class all the time and they're like, bro, like this is the way to go about it. Just skateboard with us. We're living it up. And they look like they're living it up. Now, eventually, again, that will catch up because there's graduation, because we're all students. And I have to pass the class. But even in that moment, they will also be committing a wastage of the capacity that they have within themselves to actualize their qualities as a student, right? Like there are other qualities that we have, maybe skateboarding and other things, but this very essential of who am I? Who is my, what am I as, in terms of identity, right? And we are not necessarily like, we shouldn't make being in academic sense, being a student our identity, but in terms of as much as student relates to being a human being, right? Like, you know, I can be a painter, I can be other things, but all of that stems from being a human being. And what does it mean to be a human being? It means to enjoy certain things, to have needs for certain things, right? Even if it's skateboarding, it's like, oh, here I am enjoying the certain order that I see in the world and the certain adrenaline. Who is creating that for me? So again, I can only speak for myself, but I think eventually that catches up to me. And in that moment as well, I know that I am not fulfilling my essential duty as a student. Like I should attend the class.
So I will continue the remaining part of the sentence that Dua mentioned. If you do not perform the prayers, your world that day will depart dark and wretched and will testify against you in the world of similitudes. That's an interesting sentence because the following sentences are explaining what author means by here. But for a second, let's focus on that second portion of the sentence. It will testify against you in the world of similitudes. What is world of similitude? It's and what does it mean to testify? Actually, this is, I think, a interpretation of the verse that Sister Nuran just mentioned, which is Surah Isra, chapter 17, verse number 78. أقم الصلاة لدلوك الشمس إلى غسق الليل وقرآن الفجر إن قرآن الفجر كان مشهودا. But the verse finishes with, indeed, the recitation of Fajr is mashhuda. So it testifies. What does it mean? It testifies. Like you recite Quran in the Fajr or in the prayer, and it testifies, or it has witnessed. Witnessed what? Testifies of what? So in this part, I think the author is, and if I should also translate the rest of the ayah, I'll read it from one of the translations here. Aqim as-salah, so establish worship or establish salat at the going down of the sun, declining of the sun, until the dark of night, and the Quran at dawn, or the recitation at dawn. Indeed, the Quran at dawn or Fajr is witnessed. This is the verse. So it's talking about Quran declining and then nighttime and then doing the prayer in the morning. So these two aspects are being mentioned. Now the author in here is saying that the prayer is going to give you that perspective. And then he mentions world of similitudes. What's world of similitudes? Alam al-mithal, the word he uses in there. So he says the world is reflected on you. You are being the witness of the existence in a certain way. Like there's the existence out there, but maybe there's a child which is happily singing. But if you are at your 80s, when you see a child singing, you will start getting sad because now you are almost 2 feet into the grave and somebody is happily singing a song. It will make you remember of your good days and whatnot. This scene of seeing a happy child will upset you. I mean, not necessarily you're going to be angry and whatnot, but it's going to trigger tears in your eyes rather than joy, right? Why? Because your world at that moment is quite dark or whatever. So it's not necessarily that a joyful moment is joyful for you, because your mirror at that moment is dark. So you are witnessing the existence in a way that it becomes dark for you. Otherwise, like, is it a sad moment? Yes, for you, it's a sad moment. So you are witnessing this beautiful moment as a sad moment because of your mindset at that time. So here, the way author is saying that if, or at least the purpose of prayer, or to the extent that my prayer is prayer, let's put it this way, to the extent that my prayer becomes ideal prayer, I will start seeing the world nice and beautiful and joyful. But the way that my prayer is not prayer, or maybe I am ignoring the prayer or not doing the prayer, then I will start seeing the world where everybody's competing with each other. Only the fittest one is going to survive. I have to work harder. Like, it becomes this competition of the constant war everywhere, at the level of states, at the level of people in the workplace, people in the classroom, or even in the microscopic level, everybody's fighting with each other. The world becomes dark for me. The prayer, on the other hand, is to show that I am a creation, a servant. Likewise, a virus is a servant. Likewise, the sun is a servant, or the creation of the creator. It's now this, I'm still in the same universe, but the picture I am witnessing is changing so much, or at least potentially can change so much. So this is, I think, a beautiful way of the author interpreting this. Inna Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda. Inna Quran al-Fajr kana mashhuda. So I am witnessing with the lens that the recital of Fajr gives me, or the prayer of the Fajr gives me, the enlightened time of the dawn gives me, or any prayer for that sense. It's going to make me see the universe or witness the universe in an enlightened way. Alternatively, if I take it the other way around, and this is what I understand, or at least this is how author is mentioning alam al-mithal, like the realm of similitudes. What is the reflection of the outside world to you? What is the images that are reflected on you? Yes, there is a reality out there, but what is its reflection on you, which is different than the reality itself? So how close is that to the created beautiful existence out there? So prayer gives me that lens to properly see it, or to the extent that my prayer is getting far away from its truth, or maybe I'm totally ignoring the prayer, then my world is going to start getting dark, like meaningless, and any moment that would pass would just go and will never come back. So at least in this sense, even if it is, let's say, temporarily joyful, departure of a joy is pain in and of itself. Or it was a very nice birthday party, like it passed. And now it's just a sad memory for me, in the sense that it's gone, it will not come back. And it was just marking me getting one step closer to death. So birthday parties are not going to be any more fun as you age, right? It's more fun when you're younger. It will get more and more. And after some point, you would like to, quote unquote, celebrate it, because what are we celebrating? I'm dying. Is this what we are celebrating? So I think this is a beautiful interpretation of the Quran mashhuda, the word mashhuda in there.
Jazakallah. Kadir has a comment. Question.
So I've been thinking about it. So it might take us back to the discussions we've had since the start of this. But can anyone point out, like, what the physical meaning, you can say, like, what's the physical benefit of the prayer is? For example, there have been talks, like people were saying, it's like you provide your neediness to the creator and it's a source of fulfillment. But the way I've prayed it, I present my neediness, but the source of fulfillment has always been the thing that I was needy about. It has never felt like I'm needy, like the prayer was a source of fulfillment. It's always felt like when my need is fulfilled, that need being fulfilled is a source of, like, for example, I needed money, I'll pray to the creator for money. And when the money is provided by the creator, then I'm fulfilled, not by performing the prayer itself. So that is my question. And like there are a couple of words that, like, in writing or in saying those, like they look very good, but I really don't get those. But like all of a sudden your world which looks up to you is lit up. Like if someone said this to me, like I would say, mashallah, what a beautiful line. But like I tried to pray it like a lot of ways. I've tried to be conscious of the creator. I've tried, like, even I've cried in the prayer, but this has never happened for me. So my question is, like, can anyone like specifically point out what really prayer provides?
Um, I can I speak?
Yes, please.
I think for all of us, we have like our ups and downs, and this is quite like normal. So Prophet Muhammad has a hadith about that, saying لكل عمل شر وفرة, which means sometimes we are in our extreme best version, and sometimes we are the opposite. But he said in this hadith that even in the worst days, من كانت شراته إلى سنتي فلم يضل. At least in the worst days, you are praying the 5 prayers, you still have your faith. So whenever it is dark, it is not that dark. It is not like you don't have the connection. And I think anyone who experienced ups and downs will know that whenever you're having a bad time, you need to keep the losses of your time and energy as minimal as possible. So at your good times, you can find in prayer pleasure, like a real pleasure. At times of sujood, and there are many like scientific researches about sujood and I think many of the scientists or doctors researching about that turn to Islam, or it was a reason, this scientific discoveries, that sujood is very much a physiological way of raising oxygen to the brain, and it makes your health even better. Regarding the people who are not praying and sometimes they look happy for us, I just need to say something about that. You can never tell whether a person is happy or not from his outside. So there is a video for Jordan Peterson, if you know him, about saying don't envy people. And he was saying, like, if you're a young person seeing someone rich with a blonde in a Ferrari, and but you don't know that this woman is more or less an addict, and this man is has many corrupt ways of getting the money, and everything will come crash at him, and he's anxious most of the time. So I think in life there are like priceless pleasures of like you can never know whether someone is sleeping well or not. You know what I mean? You can never tell if he's really peaceful with himself or not. People sometimes ask this question a lot, even Muslims, when someone looks very successful or happy or whatever, will he go, and he's not Muslim, will he be in heaven or not? So the way I like to answer this is, I don't know. Allah knows him, and Allah knows what is in his soul, whether he was doing that for the intention to be praised or doing that for the sake of Allah. So he will judge him on the day of judgment, and I should not bother myself with that. I should like keep focused with my own test, you know.
Jazakallah. Does anybody have any other comments in response to that or any other questions? Yusuf.
So I think that's a valid point. And so yes, when I'm going to take a test or I'm in need of something, this is the occasion in which I ask from the Creator. But is it the occasion or is it the reason? I guess this is the distinction that I need to make. Because if I take it as an occasion, and Nursi mentions this elsewhere, he says, time of Maghrib. I mean, you don't do Maghrib prayer so that the Creator is going to raise the sun the following day. Or there's this prayer of Khasaf and Khusuf and Kusuf, like in the lunar and sun eclipse, solar eclipse, you pray the prayer. So this is not the purpose of that prayer is not that, oh, God opened the moon or God opened the sun. Like by making calculations, you know that it is his habit that the Creator will open the sun within a few minutes, open the moon within a few hours. Or even he says, the prayer of rain is not to bring rain, but it is just the occasion to make that prayer. This is where things start getting interesting. Because for a fact, we know, yes, we don't pray Maghrib prayer to open up the sun. We don't pray Khusuf Kusuf to open up the sun or moon. But the rain prayer, we do it for bringing the rain. But Nursi says, no, it's just occasion, which is a very different perspective. If I take purpose of my life to live longer, to live more comfortably, if this becomes my purpose of life, then yes, I will do the rain prayer to bring rain. But if purpose of my life is to attain, like, how can I get out of this open air prison called world? Because this is a prison, I cannot escape out of this world. And eventually, 60, 70, 80 years later, at best, they're going to kill me. This is my reality. And I was born in that prison. They do not let me out of that open air prison called world. And at best, I will live 80, maybe 30, maybe 40. A drunk guy will come and hit. Anything can happen, right? You never know. In such a world, my real worry is to get independence and get out of this prison. How can I get the independence? Or, let's put it in more context, eternal life. Because I don't want to die. I don't want non-existence. How can I get there? And I am needy. This is my reality. I am poor. I cannot beat the prison itself. Like, I am doomed in this sense. Even if I curse the maker of this prison or whatever, they will not let me out. What is my reality? Realizing this, everything is then changing. The life itself becomes meaningful, purposeful. Eternal life starts happening as you are living this life. Then prayer becomes my purpose. Prayer itself becomes my purpose because prayer is the time I can or I am communicating with my maker, with my creator. Like, imagine the person who you love the most. By love, I mean genuinely loving, in whose presence you are feeling comfortable. Okay. Having a conversation with that purpose, with that person, you love it, right? Even if not you talk, just listening to that person is joyful. Or sometimes you talk and the person listens, but you know that you are being understood. Just that feeling. Prayer becomes that, and you will look for an occasion to have it. Interestingly, in the verse, Musa alayhi salam, when he talks to the Creator, he keeps elongating the conversation. The Creator says, "What is it that you're holding at your hand?" He says, "This is my staff. I shaped the bushes with it." So, like, there's a backstory for that. They say, "Oh, Musa, why did you elongate the conversation?" He says, "I was talking to my Creator. I just wanted to elongate the conversation." So then the prayer itself becomes my conversation with my Creator. It is how I breathe real air of existence, if you like, out of this open air prison of the worldly life. So it's a change of perspective which brings the reality to me. This is why, as I can see prayer as such, then rain prayer would be an occasion to make the prayer. When I am, like, an earthquake happens and the family gets destroyed and city gets destroyed, it becomes an occasion to remember my neediness, to remember the provider, the sustainer, the protector, and renewing my allegiance with my Creator. But it's, if I start seeing the world as such, then even if he gives me this, sends me the rain or not, becomes so less important. And the real satisfaction would then be the togetherness that the prayer provides with me. Because this is, I mean, even if I get the rain, I will need the rain tomorrow again. But that awareness will stay with me. That togetherness, that nearness of the Creator that I achieve through that prayer is worth eternity. So I think that change of perspective would make the prayer, to the extent that I can achieve it. I mean, not to say that, oh, since I don't know if I sounded too pious, all my prayers are like this, is it not yours? So come on, stop it. And not to say that, but this is the, at least is what I'm intellectually understanding from what he says. Practically what I do is a different story.
Jazakallah. Given the circumstances, let's not call the world an open air prison.
Yes. I mean, the world is such a place. Since we do see this open air prison somewhere like in Palestine, and we are feeling sorry for those people, which we should, what is our reality? Because we are not seeing our reality and we are feeling like, oh, I am independent. Like, it feels so bad to look at it there, and we relate to that, right? In fact, anyone in this existence, let it be your enemy, the worst bitter enemy of yours, is in that open air prison of the worldly life. If I have that compassion, with that compassion only, you can go and invite Abu Jahl to believe. Otherwise, you will just get a stone and crash the head of this Abu Jahl, right? Prophet went to so many times invite that. What sort of a mercy is that? You should be able to generalize this mercy to such a bitter enemy, to the life, to the dignity and life of the messenger. He was having that. So do I see myself and other people without belief, without prayer in this condition? To the extent we see it, our attitude for invitation will also change. Like, inviting people to the religion or delivering the message of religion is not a hobby. It's not like, oh, activism and I am young and my blood is boiling, let me do some religious activism. It should be driven by this genuine mercy, to the extent that I am feeling the pain in myself first and in those people as well. And many people are in that open air prison, and this is an eternal annihilation. It's not the end of it, 68 years of life. if a person loses the point in this version of open air prison, it's the losing of an eternal life. We are feeling sorry for people losing their lives under the bombs, which is very sad. Now multiplied with an eternal life being lost everywhere. Right, your next door neighbor is going through that. How much do we feel this? But this is why such occasions are being another reminder, in a sense, that let's now relate it to the other side as well. Not to belittle what is going through. We very vividly go through what's going on there. Now multiply it with infinity and apply it to your classmate, which is, let's say, unaware of the message of Quran and just living a life with that. So sometimes this activism things are derailing our thoughts. Let's put everything in balance. Let's feel super sorry for what's going on and feel constantly super more sorry for what's happening in our everyday environment. But the way generally this is taken is, oh yeah, who cares? Like, I mean, my classmate, I don't worry about that. So, Yusuf, do you mean that I shouldn't be feeling sorry about people who are being killed under the bombs? Not that way, but the other way around is what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. That was very thought-provoking. Any questions, comments in response to Kadir's question or Yusuf's comment? Yeah, go ahead.
So just one, as we are also out of time, author concluded this paragraph with another verse, Allahu nuru samawati wal ard, this verse. He said that this is an interpretation, that paragraph is an interpretation of this verse as well. What does it mean that Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth? Saying that if you look at with the lens of Allah creates everything, or everything, like, I don't want to say with a godly perspective, because we do not look at from God's perspective, but looking at things by taking God into account, then the world will become enlightened for you. Otherwise, the world will be dark for you. Allah enlightens the heavens and the earth for you. Without Allah, without proper understanding of Allah in my life, everything is going to be dark for you, will become dark for me. Allah will make everything meaningful and enlightened for me. This is how the author is taking this verse, which is from Surah 24, verse 35. No, yeah, Surah An-Nur, you're right.
All right. We are out of time. So if anybody has any other questions or comments, please hold them till the next discussion.
So, just one small,
Yeah.
is this the last paragraph of this text?
No, it goes on, and there's a second station too. I don't know if we're reading that.
Second station is going to be a separate topic. So I
Okay.
would suggest reading that paragraph and maybe concluding the topic. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Because otherwise next week, maybe we will study a different text.
Okay. That's fine. I'm going to read it. Okay. Beware. Do not say, what are my prayers in comparison with the reality of the prayers? Because like the seed of a date palm describes the fully grown tree, your prayers describe your tree. The difference is only in the summary and details. Like the prayers of a great saint, the prayers of ordinary people like you or me, even if they are not aware of it, have a share of that light. There is a mystery in this truth, even if the conscious mind does not perceive it. But the unfolding and illumination differs according to the degrees of those performing them. However many stages and degrees there are from the seed of the date palm to the mature tree, the degrees of the prayers and their stages are even more numerous. But the essence of that luminous truth is present in all the degrees. O God, grant blessings and peace to the one who said, the 5 daily prayers are the pillar of religion, and to all his family and companions. If anyone has any questions or comments, well, too bad. We're going to conclude the discussion here. I'm joking. If you have any questions, you can bring them to the next session. but that was pretty self-explanatory and we touched upon that a little bit already. Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa akhiru dawana anil hamdulillahi rabbil